Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got tropical downpours and much needed rain coming for the Northeast, plus Hurricane Danielle and two tropical systems out in the Eastern Pacific that could make things really interesting going into next week. Welcome back everyone. How's it going? This is your morning update. I appreciate all my followers out there and the new followers. If you are new to the channel and you do like detailed weather breakdowns on North America and the tropics, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's take a look at the overall satellite picture this morning. And what stands out right now is a system out here in the Eastern Pacific. That is actually Tropical Storm Javier that's actually formed. But it's moving out into the open waters. But what it's doing is it's shearing across and bringing more precipitation back into Texas. You see new convection blowing up in around portions of the Dallas-Fort Worth area this morning. That's heading off into East Texas, while we do have another boundary that's setting up over portions of Minnesota this morning, and that will set the stage for some more stronger thunderstorms this afternoon, as a lot of the deep tropical moisture is really elongated right into across the deep south and heading into Florida. So if we take a look at the overall bigger picture going into the tropics, we've got several systems to highlight. First, we've got Hurricane Danielle that actually formed this morning. So now that is safely out there in the open waters of the Atlantic. And it's actually going to be expecting to get a Category 2. And there's even signs it could actually become a major hurricane, but it'll be no threat to anybody whatsoever as it continues to race across into the Northeast. But we do have another invest coming off the coast of Africa. We'll have plenty of time to watch this system, but closer to home, we do have Invest 91L, but a lot of the ensemble members guidance has this moving north of Puerto Rico and eventually recurving out to sea. But right here out in the Eastern Pacific, these are my main concerns. Right now, we're talking about Javier that's actually going to be moving across into the open waters, but it's be spreading that precipitation and adding to more rainfall into Texas, while we have yet another system that's trailing back behind that one. And that's the one that could make things really interesting going into the next week, as this recurves back closer to the Cabo San Lucas and heads towards further off into portions really deeper up here. So we'll highlight this at the end of the video. So things are pretty interesting heading into next week. So, but for today, we've got storms coming around right along that boundary. So we do have a marginal risk in place for stronger storms, mainly a wind threat with these. But they could be on the strong side as we head deeper into the afternoon time frame into portions of Wisconsin, heading through Minnesota as well as Iowa. That'll fishtail down here into portions of Nebraska as well as back into Kansas. There's also a little another instability. Storm Prediction Center has highlighted that slight risk. A lot of these winds are going to be on the range of 35, maybe uppers to 50, but I really don't see 60 mile per hour. The probabilities on that are less than 10%. So I'm pretty surprised they actually raised that to a slight risk. But nonetheless, we do have that slight risk in place, but some of those could be on the stronger wind side into the afternoon time frame. But looking at the water vapor imagery, you can kind of see where all the moisture is. And it's not up here off the west coast and much of the north here, because we've got a lot of ridging, a lot of sinking air. We've got all the high pressure really locked over this region. That's why they're expecting record high temperatures for a good chunk of the west and northwest, while all the instability gets really forced down well to the south. So you kind of have like more of a squeeze play happening in the portions of Texas, really Dallas-Fort Worth southward. So, and then that right along this boundary here, that's where the threat is this morning for those stronger storms this afternoon. And then you have these milky whites trying to sneak up into portions of the Ohio Valley. That'll bring more precipitation for them and eventually head off to the northeast and bring them more much needed precipitation back into Labor Day. So let's fine tune this for today. So right now we do have that blow up of convection highlighted over the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That actually swings off into East Texas, heading into Arkansas, into Louisiana this afternoon. there's more pockets of heavy rain where you do have that shearing coming across the Big Bend area. So those areas could see some isolated flash flooding, have that marginal risk in place with those stronger storms back into Arizona. And this continues to cross with these warm waters in the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Yeah, it's taking advantage of all that just tropical type downpours from much of the deep south heading into Georgia, as well as the state of Florida. And then you can definitely see it by tomorrow, right? As Javier really starts to swing off and kind of lose its, gets out into the open waters of the Pacific here, it'll be sheared off, right? So it kind of spreads its tropical moisture essentially from Dallas southward. So that's where all the heavier rains will be, and shifting a little bit further off into the south. Now we're talking further south into Louisiana, but then it'll split up heading into the Ohio Valley. That's why I showed you some of those milky white colors. That's where some of the deeper convergence or more the lift will have, and more moisture available will sneak up into portions of Indiana, heading into Ohio, get back into portions of Kentucky, and then eventually head off into West Virginia. And that's highlighted on the Weather Prediction Center with the heaviest threat. So as this boundary starts to sink further south, headed into your Saturday, then it puts all the heavier rains out of Dallas and heading into central Texas, places like Austin, San Antonio, and back into Houston, further south in the Rio Grande Valley. And then you'll have that other pocket of instability where those darker milky whites are. That's back into Tennessee, back into Kentucky, as well as portions of Indiana with some heavier rain showers and the highest probability of picking up more significant amounts of precipitation. But that will spread and eventually start heading off in a little bit, eventually start going to be impacting parts of the Northeast, but that won't be until Sunday, heading into Monday. So here's your Sunday aspect. This just drifts a little bit further south, so still inundated in Texas. As Javier swings further away, it spreads its moisture further south. So now it's places like San Antonio into Houston, down in the Rio Grande Valley with the heaviest rain amounts. And then as this boundary kind of clips further north, then finally we'll start seeing those much needed rain sneaking into Pennsylvania. That'll eventually creep into portions of northern New Jersey and eventually head into New York, but that won't be until Monday. So for your Labor Day, so everybody wants to know, and a lot of people are off work, you got a holiday weekend coming up, right? So here's your temperatures for your Labor Day. And yeah, it's all about the heat. I'm sorry. It's got plenty of heat really impacting these areas. Widespread record temperatures, well into the hundreds. We could even max out 126 degrees in Death Valley. That's some serious heat for this time of year. And then back into, we'll look at the 90s spreading all the way up to the Canadian border. So yeah, there's plenty of intense heat, even to the Dakotas, into the middle 90s, where all the 80 temperatures, compliments of the clouds, compliments of all the rain showers around. That's why you're back in the 80s in much of Oklahoma and Texas. But look at the cooler conditions you're going to be experiencing in the Northeast, getting into the Ohio Valley. That's with just all the rain around and the cloud cover, and that's where it's going to be as you go into your Monday. So you can definitely see much needed precipitation will finally lift coming out of the Ohio Valley, will finally lift into New York, back into northern parts of New Jersey, back into New York City, into Connecticut, into Massachusetts, back into Rhode Island areas. Vermont, New Hampshire will sneak into portions, at least the southern portions of Maine, with some much needed precipitation for them, because I know those areas up here are actually still going through that severe drought. So overall, for the next 4 days, you can definitely see where all the record heat will be, basically the heat dome. There's probably 20 or 30 states won't even see a drop of rain for the next 4 days, right? All will be confined well to the south in Texas, parts of Oklahoma, but really inundating Arkansas, Louisiana, back into Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, back into Florida, up to the Carolina coast. This will, heavier amounts will inundate portions of the Ohio Valley. It'll eventually swing off into Pennsylvania, and then sporadic 1 to 2 inches are definitely welcome rains heading up to parts of the Northeast over the next 4 days. But now let's take you to the Eastern Pacific. So that little invest 93L that has not formed yet. This is not Javier. Javier will be gone by then. This is that second system on the backside, and most guidance has this really blowing up into a fairly significant storm. So this is the latest hurricane model going into Wednesday for next week, and this could actually be down. Right now it's calling for a 954 millibar low pressure right off the coast of Cabo San Lucas. So if you definitely got plans out there, I would be on high alert from this system that's coming up, because it is supposed to be traversing west northwest over the coming days. And we could be looking at a fairly significant storm on the table, if not a major hurricane by then, even the latest icon model. So we're starting to see a lot of model congruency coming together about the same thing. 957 millibar low pressure right off the coast of the Baja California into Cabo San Lucas. So that will obviously be a pretty high impact event. But it also, again, will be spreading more precipitation back into Texas, as this will continue to lift west northwest, where things do get interesting. Obviously, this is some uncertainty this far out as overall in the exact track, but some guidance not only has it going through the Baja, but it could actually kind of split the uprights and can continue to be over the waters. And if it's able to do that, then obviously that's able to keep its intensity even longer. So if we're looking at the latest icon, kind of implies that. So we could be looking at a storm that's coming up, not only eclipse Cabo San Lucas, but it could really start continue to traverse up its course through the Baja and really help you kind of holding together. I mean, this is a 900 and 982 millibar low pressure. That's a fairly still significant tropical storm on the table, if not still a hurricane by then, again spreading its moisture back into Texas, but pulling the wind field a little bit further off north into the Baja, getting close to portions of California and Arizona and New Mexico. In fact, if we take a look at some of these wind swaths, it kind of implies that. So the wind swath would potentially could take it near Cabo San Lucas, or even kind of, again, stay out in the open waters here, will continue to remain its intensity for longer, if it stays over the waters. Of course, the further north you get here, these waters turn significantly colder, and they're really cold once they come off the coast of California. But let me show you the GFS, right? So sometimes, this model has been, almost comical lately. So not only does it blow it up to a massive, hurricane, and keeps this as a fairly significant hurricane all the way through almost to California, it actually keeps it as a tropical storm off the coast of California. So a 994, off the coast of California, the odds of that happening are basically slim to none because the waters out here out in California are so cold. There's a reason why you don't have tropical systems in California, because the water is so cold. In fact, I looked at the waters. I mean, we're talking 63 degrees, okay? Typically, you need about 80 degrees to keep a tropical system alive. So there's no tropical system that's going to be, off the coast of California by late next week. So I'm sorry, it's going to be falling apart by then. That's not going to happen. So yes, there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of issue with that GFS model this year, and I'm just waiting for the update. But unfortunately, the update won't come until another 6 weeks from now, and most of the hurricane season will be over with by then. So, but between now and then, we'll just have to deal with it. So, but yeah, what's concerning is going into, about 10 days from now. So we're going to be in this zonal flow, right? For the next 10 days, a lot of ridging is going to be in place, and a lot of the instability is well south. But we do see some major changes in the overall pattern once we hit towards the 11th and 12th time frame. We're going to have a pretty significant trough that's going to be coming in off the west coast. What that'll do is that'll put it in to the heat wave. So you got a lot of heat to contend with for the next 10 days. But beyond that, once we get into about the 11th or 12th time frame, we're going to have another pretty significant dip in the overall jet stream. And that's going to, I think, it's going to be dipping pretty far south, bringing some much cooler anomalies for you guys off the west coast. But it'll also going to be setting the stage for probably our first severe weather event, but that probably won't be for fall, but that won't probably be until the middle of the month, a more higher impact event after this trough sneaks in and clashes with some of these higher temperatures by then, but that won't be until like the middle of September. So between now and then, we're gonna have a lot of rain to deal with and a lot of heat to deal with out west in the northwest here, where most of the convergence is confined. And depending on the overall track of that second system, obviously I think Cabo San Lucas is going to get crushed with a lot of heavy rain and a lot of wind, but depending on the alignment and the overall track is where the most significant rain amounts will be spreading over portions of Texas. But there's a lot of rain coming for Texas, there's no question about that. But those heavier rains will sneak across the deep south, and portions will get up into portions of the Tennessee Valley, creeping up into the Ohio Valley, and those much needed rains will be impacting portions of the mid-Atlantic as well as the Northeast. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.